Oh my God. All right, I'm going to give Michael one more minute. Yeah, okay. I think we all think we should go. So since we have such a limited amount of time, I'm going to rock it and we're just going to go because that's how the world works. So welcome. My name is Jill Katz, and this is my incredible partner, Jamie Delaney. And we are here from Assemble HR. Let's see if we can get this to work. So I like to introduce myself. I like to say to people often that when we do come in and facilitate programs, usually you get to see the whole me from top to bottom, including my legs. And so now when we facilitate programs, I like to show people my whole clan. So this is a picture of my family this summer. On a day that we were all together. That's my husband, Josh, and my daughter, Lexi, who's 14. She just started high school in her bedroom on Zoom. And my amazing son, Benny, who started 5th grade in his bedroom on Zoom. So I think we're all in similar situations. This is the scariest thing I did in 2020. Which I'm proud I did and would absolutely never do again. I went on a ropes course in Maine, 30 feet up in the sky, and I've never been so scared in my whole life. But it was on my bucket list, and I'm so proud that I did it. What we do at Assemble HR is we work with organizations, and we have a very, very specific mission. Assemble HR is an organization that was built by a group of human resources and people-focused leaders that have all been in human resources roles. Every one of us have been HR leaders in big companies, small companies, and all different kinds of organizations who left the big corporate world in some way to come to this organization. And we do what we do to help bring people-focused leadership back to the workplace. And that is what we do. So back before the pandemic, this is how I spent most of my time. So that's a little bit about us. And so I want to start off by hearing a little bit about what you think. So I know nobody has their cell phone near them at all. But if for some reason you do, if you would please take out your cell phone right now. And on that cell phone, you're going to send a text message to the phone number 37607. And the message that you're going to send is the word Assemble HR, all one word with no spaces, in all caps. And when you send that message, you'll get a response on your phone. And that response will say, you've joined Jody Reamer's session. And that's how you will know you're in. Now I'm going to give everybody about a second to do that. And once you get that message, you'll be able to participate in an exercise with us. If anyone's having any emergencies and it's not working, shoot us a little chat. It is 37607 is the number. And you're going to type in Assemble HR. Okay, so what I'd like you to do once you're in is from your cell phone, I'd like you to text the word in. What is the first word that comes to your mind when someone says, I have some feedback to share with you? Some of you are having some trouble. It's not working for you, huh? Just no one's getting a reply. No one's getting a reply. So have you tried, is there anyone who is getting a reply? Text me back if you're getting a reply. Yes. Oh, I've never had this happen. Jamie, is it working for you to text 37607? Jamie's on mute.
The response that we normally get is not coming back.
Okay. So you know, let's use our chat. So let's all use the chat here. Ooh. Let's put that there. Okay. Everyone in the chat, what is the first word that comes to your mind when you hear, yeah, uh-oh. That's a good one. Jacqueline, what else do you think of when someone says, I have feedback for you? Yikes. Ugh. What else? Nervous. What other words come to mind? Generally not good. Are there others? The thing is, in general, when we hear I have feedback, we automatically don't think it's going to be very good. And I wonder why that is. The thing is, we were raised with feedback. We learned from a very, very young age how to do all the things that we do simply from feedback. As a matter of fact, when we were tiny, tiny babies, someone looked at us and smiled, and we smiled back. And they smiled back at us, and it felt great. And what did it do? It taught us to smile. That was feedback. And then someone went like this and clapped for us. And what did we learn from that? We learned that if we did something great, maybe we sat up, or maybe we giggled, or maybe we took a step. And then someone did this. And that was feedback. And we learned that if we did something, we would get these claps, and we liked it. And then we went to school and we got grades. We knew that if we studied hard, we would get a grade, and that grade was feedback. That grade taught us and told us exactly how we were doing. We knew that if we studied hard, we'd get a grade back. We would get report cards. And for many of us in school, there was a time when our caregivers went in and sat down with our teachers, and our teachers got to tell our caregivers how things were going, what was working well for us in our classroom and what wasn't. And guess what, friends? These were performance reviews, except we weren't invited to them. So those were your very first reviews. Imagine getting a review now that your mom or your dad or your grandparent or your caregiver was invited to, but you didn't get to go. That's what those were. As we grew older, we got feedback all the way through, and that helped us stay on track. That's exactly how we learned to know what to do. And we loved it. We got used to it. It helped us learn. As a matter of fact, it's a huge part of our daily lives today. The average internet user has more than 7 social media accounts, right? How many people here put a 1 in the chat if you have a Facebook account? Yeah. Put a 2 in the chat if you have an Instagram account. Put a 3 in the chat if you have a LinkedIn account. Put a 4 in the chat if you have a Snapchat account. How about a 5 for a TikTok account? And hang on to that one because we don't know how long you're going to have it, right? We spend more than 5 years of our lives on social media. How about Carolina? I'm not either, but I don't tell my 14-year-old. How about a 6 for those who tweet. How many people have a Twitter account? Yeah. Oh, Jacqueline loves Twitter. Well, think about this. Do you know that over 50% of people that tweet expect a response within an hour? Can you imagine if in your work environment, you could get feedback on everything you do within an hour? Now, here's something that's interesting. Social media is by definition a feedback mechanism. That's all it is. All we do on social media is go out and ask for feedback. Do you like this? Do you not like this? Or will you give me feedback? Or we go and share feedback. I like this. I love this. I care about this. I don't like this. Or we share feedback. As a matter of fact, we go do it all day. We ask for it and we share it for hours. How many people have been on social media already today? Say me. Yeah, me. Me too, by the way. So here's my question. What happens when we get to work? All the statistics on that page are us. We are the 50%. We are the people spending 5 years of our lives on social media. But when we get back to work, we hold back. We walk into the walls of our workplace and something changes. Or we get onto the Zooms with our work colleagues and something changes. Why is that? Why is feedback at work different from all the feedback we've ever been involved in? The feedback we needed to grow up in our lives, the feedback we so counted on to learn to do things right, and the feedback we all long for every other minute of the day. I've done so much research. I've traveled the country, and I do this program with companies everywhere. And what's amazing for me and what I've learned and validated over and over and over is that regardless of age, regardless of industry, regardless of level, the reasons we tend to hold back are similar. So let me ask you, what are some of the reasons that you might hold back from sharing feedback with a work colleague? Why don't you throw it into the chat? You don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Thank you, Patrick. Yes, Juliana, the same. It might not be received well. Good, Stephanie. What else? Anyone else have any ideas? Yeah, it could create conflict. Very good. Or maybe it's not your place. It could be the wrong time. I don't have the right words. Excellent. Maybe I don't want to be involved in the conflict or the confrontation. These are all so common. Here's an example of one of the organizations where I led this program, and there you see them again. The most common things we see. I'm not sure if it's my place. I need evidence. A lot of people say, "Ooh, I need so much documentation. I just don't know if I have enough yet." Or I don't have enough time for this conversation. Or I waited too long and now it's awkward, right? That's a good one. Or I plan on discussing this, but I can't until after we're done with this particular project. Or as our friend here, I think Stephanie said it, I don't exactly know how to say this. I don't know if I have the right words. Or a lot of people are worried there'll be repercussions. I don't know if it's politically proper for me to say this, or I don't want to get in trouble with HR, or I'm not sure if it's even worth it. I don't know if this person's going to change. It could be unpleasant. I don't want the person to quit. I don't want to upset the person. These are what we have called at Assemble HR valid excuses. And I've even written articles about this. Why do we call these valid excuses? Because they are in fact valid. You may in fact be worried about a relationship. You may in fact think that you don't have the time, or you may believe that you can move on and get other work done. Or maybe you don't think the person can change, or it seems the work is more important. But the fact is, these are excuses nonetheless. And the fact is that if we know how to give feedback the right way, feedback is always the better way to go. And so my belief is that if we know how to give feedback with candor, courage, and care, we can, in fact, move all relationships forward, which positively impacts everything else. And in this case, business. So what is the Candor, Courage, and Care solution? Well, today we will dip our baby toes in it. Candor covers the what, courage covers the how, and care covers why. So let's first talk about candor. Candor is being honest, frank, and very, very specific with other people so that they can be their very, very best all the time. Let's talk about candor. So take a look at my friend right here. How many people have ever been in this situation? You can write me if you've been in this situation. I see Jamie has been in this situation. So Lisa, Stephanie, Tanya, Juliana. Yeah, you've been here. Jamie, let me ask you, you come off mute. Have you been the Kristen Wiig, or have you been sitting at the table with Kristen Wiig?
I was the Kristen Wiig, and I was
I think you're muted. My bad. Hang on just a sec. Okay, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was the Kristen Wiig, and I was sitting with two colleagues, and we were chatting, and the CEO called me to her office, and they did not tell me that I had Brussels sprouts all in my teeth. And so I went and had a conversation the whole time and did not realize until I got back to my desk that I had sat through that conversation with Brussels sprouts in my teeth. And I just went straight to them and asked, why?
Why? You asked them why what?
Why didn't you tell me? I was saying I'm still muted.
Oh, I hear her. Do other people hear Jamie? Okay, some can hear it.
Okay.
So you asked people why. You asked them why. What was your why? Why what?
Why didn't you tell me?
Why didn't you tell me? So the fact is, this happens all the time, right? I saw so many people say, yes, 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 I've been in this situation. And I wish we could talk out loud. When I do this program out loud, we have such a fun conversation here around our poor friend, Kristen here, right? Let me ask the group, right? Please say yes now. If you were Kristen and you were sitting at the table and you had broccoli or spinach or who knows what that is in your teeth, would you want me to tell you that you had broccoli or spinach or something in your teeth? Please say yes or no. Jamie says yes. 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 Yes, please. Absolutely. Okay. Now, here are your choices. Would you like me to tell you that you have broccoli, Brussels sprouts, chicken, peanut butter in your teeth now? Would you like me to tell you next week at our touch base that you had broccoli in your teeth when we had lunch last week? Would you like me to tell you at our mid-year review? Or would you like me to tell you at our annual review? Now, says Juliana. Now, says Tanya and Stephanie. Now, says Chelsea. The fact is, if there is something easy and quick and specific that we can do to make things better and fix them, all of us want to do it and want to be told now. As a matter of fact, when I go through this program with people, 100% of the time, everyone says now. However, when I ask the other question, which is how many people would tell her now, about half of us would, because it's hard. We don't exactly know how, but we know that we'd all prefer to be told. So how do we do it? How do we do it? We do it fast. If you remember that feedback needs to be fast, it makes it easier. Candid feedback should be frequent. It should be action-oriented. It should be specific and timely. So the more frequent your feedback can be, the easier it gets. As a matter of fact, when feedback becomes what we call a continuous loop, when you become someone that is a trusted feedback advisor, someone that people know is always there to say, hey, you know what, you actually have some Brussels sprouts in your teeth, then you become someone that people will say, hey, can you check my teeth? Right? Because you're trusted. And you'll always be someone that says, this was really great. You have a little bit of Brussels sprouts there. Could you move over? Hey, Jamie, your lamp is a little to the side. And people just know that the more you do it, the easier it is for you to do it, and the more comfortable it will be for someone to hear feedback from you. And as long as that feedback is super specific, which means it's action-oriented, it's something that you can videotape. I can videotape Brussels sprouts in Jamie's teeth. I know exactly what they look like. I can videotape someone slamming a door. I can videotape someone interrupting another person in a meeting. I can videotape someone not participating in a meeting. So anything that you can catch on video, that's called a behavior, what I call an action-oriented behavior. And if you can be very, very specific about when it happened, where it happened, or how it happened, that is incredibly helpful. And then the next thing is as soon as possible. When my husband says to me the other day when you know what my answer back is? Too late. That's in my rear view mirror. The sooner you point something out to a person, the more helpful it is. Fast feedback is so helpful. And if you think about it as spinach in the teeth, every one of us, if given the opportunity to tweak something now and make it better, or if you gave me the opportunity right now to catch myself doing something you love, if you said, Jill, when you smile in the camera while you're teaching, we really like it and we find it to be impactful, that's helpful to me because I'll keep doing it. If you tell me when the class is over, I can't do anything about it. And so remember that feedback is also meant to be positive. In the beginning, I asked everyone, how do you feel when you hear about feedback? And we all thought, ugh. And that's because it's turned into a big, overwhelming, negative, heavy word when it doesn't have to be. It can be fast. What does this look like? Here's an example. This is a manager and her direct report. The manager says, keep doing what you're doing. The direct report says, oh, great, thanks, I will. Here's what's really happening. The manager is thinking, I like her so much, and I don't want to make her feel bad. I just wish she would. And the direct report's thinking, I can always tell when there's something she's not telling me. How many of us have seen these situations, right? I know I had a boss like this once who always told me I was doing a great job, and I always knew that there was something she wanted to tell me and she didn't. And she probably had a list of valid excuses. And I thought to myself, I wish she would just tell me so I can do what she wants to hear. What would happen if this manager simply said to her, hey, Cassie, I love your production meetings. They're excellent. One thing that would make them better, instead of sending me the agenda an hour before the meeting, could you think of sending it to me the night before? It creates incredible stress for both of us. I don't like that very much. And if you sent it to me the night before, I think the meetings would go much smoother. It's fast. We imagine that it's frequent. Hopefully she can do that constantly. We just have to jump in and hope that. It's very action-oriented and specific, and it's timely. And do we think that Cassie would be okay if her boss told her that? I think she looks okay. And then next week, Cassie can send the agenda the night before. What would happen, and you can tell me in the chat, if this manager doesn't say something and week after week after week, Cassie sends the agenda an hour before? Don't leave me hanging, guys. What happens? Yeah, resentment. Leader gets frustrated, so she starts to resent. The manager gets more upset. It's frustrating. That's right. It creates unnecessary tension. It turns into a thing, and it doesn't have to be a thing. If feedback is fast and if it's candid, we can nip this one in the bud. Here's another example. We have two peers. This guy says, hey, can you make this one last change for me? And she says, okay, sure, no problem. She says, seriously, I am so sick of fixing your work. And he's thinking, cool, now I can go to Starbucks. What if she could just be candid with him? What if she could say to him, hey, you know what, Darren? This is the third time you've asked me to fix your work, and it really makes me feel disrespected. I would much prefer that you do the work together with me. And if you need my help or there's something you don't know how to do, I'll show it to you. Because if this goes on for too long, this is going to blow up. Finally, this may look familiar to some of us because this is the new world. Is this still a good time for our weekly? Oh yeah, absolutely, no problem. But the person on the computer is kind of thinking, you know, you sound a little distracted. I can't hear you. You look annoyed, and I don't quite think that you feel focused. And she's thinking, no, this isn't a good time at all. Both sides have an opportunity to just be candid and just share fast feedback. There is so much that we can eliminate and so much we can gain in our world if we can just create a loop of continuous fast feedback with one another. The benefits of fast feedback: the more we share candid feedback, the more trust we build with one another, and the more competency we have with sharing feedback. We foster more communication. It becomes more open. It makes it easier. We create more opportunities for positive reinforcement. There are so many studies that show that we don't give enough recognition. Recognition is positive feedback. We think of feedback as something negative. We also would allow more opportunities for accelerated improvement. If I could get more feedback, fast feedback, instead of waiting to hear feedback at my update or my review, I would be able to make quick changes and improvements now. I would get that Brussels sprout out of my teeth now, and you would be able to see me make improvements much faster. And then finally, oh my goodness, we would decrease so much anxiety and confusion that we battle in our mental health and in our work lives because of the amount of time we spend wondering and stressing over the messages that are unclear or that we try to decode. We won't have time today to talk about the courage and the care part of the model, which are so important in Candor, courage, and care. But it's important to know that this model includes all three. And what makes it different from other feedback models is that all three components need to be present at the same time. It's not just about being candid. It's about being willing to take risks and having a willingness and a strength to have conversations even when you know they might not be easy. And we engage in those conversations so that we can let go of our valid excuses and be caring individuals. This probably isn't going to work, but this is a great example. If I had to tell you something about your job, tell me in the chat, would you like to hear the full transparent update on the details of a change that impacts your position? You can put the letter in the chat. Would you like to hear now via Zoom? Would you like to hear next week? Would you like to hear next month? Would you like to wait until after this crisis is over? Would you like to hear anytime but only in person, or never? Just don't tell me. Yeah. A. We all want to know now, and that takes courage. It is hard to share tough messages, but it is so important for leaders and peers and colleagues to be brave in communication, and that is such a critical part of sharing feedback. And so when it's your job to share information with people, the key message is to think, even though it might be scary for you, if it were you that were to receive the message, would you want to know now or at another time? And if you would answer now, there's a good chance the other person would as well. Finally, we get to care. Care is such a critical part of the model and has been for years as we've used this model, but now, of course, in the global pandemic, it couldn't be louder. Care is about showing genuine empathy. It's about thinking of feedback as a vehicle to see a person as a human being and using feedback only for that reason. That you would share feedback only, really only, if you believe you're doing it for another person's benefit. And so this is unpopular for me to say, but away with performance review feedback if you're only doing it because you're supposed to fill out a form. Away with any type of feedback because you're supposed to. And in on feedback because you really believe that you have an insight to share for someone's benefit. You see someone doing something amazing and you want to make sure they know it's amazing, and you see someone doing something that you think could be better and you want to bring that to that person's attention. We usually ask people, what has someone done to show care to you? Unfortunately, in today's program, we don't have enough time, but these are the types of examples we hear. People talk about personal recognition that they've gotten that mattered the most when I needed it. Or someone sent me a note to ask if I was okay. Asked me about my birthday celebration. Called me personally to tell me about a change in the organization that impacted me. Helped me select a mentor or invited me to a new lunch. And what I love about these examples that come out is that they're always about something personal or human. You never see someone say, someone helped me create an Excel spreadsheet. Someone helped me blow the sales number. You always see care connect with something that is truly here. And it is a differentiator. Feedback with candor, courage, and care. The do's and the don'ts. It's always important to think of feedback as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve relationships. And remember that the 3 C's are about the how, the what, and the why. It's important to share fast feedback, which helps us build trust. And the more continuous it is, the easier it becomes. Feedback is not there. It's not about using valid excuses that hold us back. We don't want vague terms. It's about being really, really specific, which is what fast feedback helps us do. It's not good to wait too long, and it's not worth it to engage in feedback unless it's really for someone else's best interest. Every day, there are doors in front of all of us, and every door is an opportunity. If you are a person that is willing to engage in feedback with candor, courage, and care, you may in fact open a door for someone else that they've never, ever been able to walk through before that could change their life. And so I invite all of you to consider using this model as you go forward. And so with that, I ask, does anyone have any feedback? And it's been 44 minutes. I've never been so to the dot. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Nyan. Are there any questions I can answer? Carolina, great question. Any thoughts of how introverts can prepare to give feedback? Introverts, extroverts, actually, and I'll give Jamie a chance to talk about this also, because Jamie is also an introvert. Also not meaning that I'm an introvert. Jamie is an introvert. Everyone can give feedback, and introverts and extroverts are really about how people get their energy. Extroverts are people who get their energy or sort of fill their tank by being with others. Introverts are people that fill their tank or replenish their energy by not being with others. But introverts are not at all people who cannot give or receive feedback. I know many of highly talented introverts that are outstanding leaders. And so introverts probably don't want to give feedback in a big group, but I don't recommend anybody give feedback in a big group. And so it's a really good question. Jamie, I would ask you, do you think there are any specific tips that introverts might want to hear regarding feedback?
I mean, I think the way I interpret introvert also in this situation is maybe someone that's just not comfortable engaging sometimes. And so I think it's about practice. The more you do it, the more comfortable you feel, the more trust that you build. And I think as an introvert, I've worked hard to build trust in relationships in just different ways than maybe Jill would. So it's a different experience, but the care is there. And so then it's really about building the courage, which might take a little more practice.
Such a good answer. Thank you, Jamie. Carolina, thank you for that question. Helen asked, how do you recommend beginning relationships to make this kind of feedback the default? Really good question, because sometimes you get to begin a relationship this way, and sometimes you're already in a relationship and you want to change the cadence. And in both cases, I don't think it needs to be a mystery. I often recommend to people that you say out loud what you're trying to do. And so it can be as overt as coming back and saying, I learned a new model of feedback, and it's called fast feedback. And this is what it includes. I want to try to be as frequent and action-oriented, specific, and timely as possible. And it's very helpful, I believe, to invite people to do the same with you. And so with the people that I work with in my company, we are, believe me, super, super, super rigorous about feedback with candor, courage, and care in our organization. And fast is just the first part of the model. So I had to break pieces off for today's program. We use fast feedback, and we also use the other two pieces of our model. But I both demonstrate fast feedback and I ask of it from my team members. And so Jamie can attest to that as well. So for your question, Helen, I might say to people, I'm going to try this new model, and I hope and really ask that you'll also try to be really frequent with me and and then along the way, encourage people. Hey, how did that go? What did you think? Can I get some feedback from you? So that people will be really comfortable trying it out. Stephanie had a great question. Jamie, do you want to try this one?
I think it's important, and this is probably, we probably have a little more hesitation sometimes if we don't have a supervisor like Jill who has opened the door and asked for the feedback. But what I think is important, everyone described how they feel too. We all kind of get nervous and on the defense. So it's like, how do you approach the conversation with the supervisor to sit down, and maybe it's even asking for feedback and then engaging in the conversation to say, sometimes I feel, and then fill in the blanks. Or would it be possible for us to discuss how that went? I'd love to give you my perspective. So there's ways to phrase it to take people off the defense in the immediate, the same way we would want someone to approach us.
Great answer. Chelsea, in the situation you described where someone gave feedback about always passing his work to her, what do you do if he gets defensive and then doesn't work with her at all or reacts in negative ways? Great question. I would give feedback about that. And so often, it doesn't always work, right? Sometimes we give our first fast feedback and it doesn't work. And so it does need to roll. And so Chelsea, great question. She may have said to him, hey, I don't like when you do this. It makes me feel disrespected. I would really appreciate it. And he might say to her, well, I don't always do that. I don't always ask you to do my work. And she might say, I'm noticing right now that you are, and we have to be really careful because it has to be videotapable. So saying to someone, you're getting defensive, that's not videotapable. That's not videotapable. That's my perception. I can't videotape you getting defensive, but I can videotape your face getting red. That's videotapable. I can videotape you standing above me. I can videotape you plopping down in a chair. I can videotape your voice getting louder, but we have to be careful about saying things like bad attitude, getting defensive, really angry, because how someone feels is not videotapable. That's a perception. And so that's a really tricky and important topic. So she might say, hold on, Darren, you're starting to get a little louder. I'm watching your face change and I'm worried that you might get angry. Can we talk? This is the third time that you have asked me to finish your work. And the impact on me is I feel disrespected. And now this conversation doesn't feel like it's going well. And so she might need to go into another fast feedback loop. And you're asking a really smart question because you're getting into part 2 of our program, which is the second part of our model. So you should sign up for one of our programs. You're welcome. I hope that was at least a little bit of a helpful start. I think we probably have time for one more question. Yes, she is. I agree with you, Jackie. Chelsea's a rock star. I hope we helped her. Is there anything else we can answer today? Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Well, Jamie, you're the best Vanna I've ever had.
Thank you. Thanks for the feedback.
Jamie, I always appreciate your Vanna-ness and your brilliant thoughts. So thank you for being here today. Thank you all so much for joining us. You can reach us at Jill at HR Assemble and Jamie at HR Assemble. We have a much more robust version of this program and so many other programs. We would love to learn more about you and what you do. And enjoy the rest of this amazing conference. And thanks to those of you who helped us with the technology.
Yes, thank you.
Because I was not quite clear on how this all worked. So enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. Be safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. All right, our information here.